Okay, so when we look here in Zechariah, he's now again, Zechariah lived during the Babylonian exile. Now, in the Babylonian exile, it looks like they already fasted the four fasts. They fasted on in Tammuz. By the way, it's not clear what day they fasted on Tammuz. I'll tell you why. Because today we fast on the 17th day of Tammuz. And the Mishnah says the reason why the 17th day of Tammuz, because five things happened on the 17th day of Tammuz. One of them was Moses broke the tablets.
Mhm.
Another one was that it was that the walls of Jerusalem were broken through. And another one was the guy Apostomus who put a pagan god into the temple. And there's two others. However, when you look in the Torah, it says that the Babylonians broke the walls of Jerusalem around I think it's the seventh. So the
Yeah,
Talmud.
we had it with Rabbi Ariel, but I forgot the day.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, nothing.
So the Talmud says that the 17th day of Tammuz is referring to when the Romans broke into Jerusalem during the Second Temple period. And that's why the Talmud says we picked the 17th, because there are other things that happened on the 17th day too, not just the breaking of the walls of Jerusalem. It was also the day Moses broke the tablets. So it became very significant. So it's interesting that according to the 17th day of Tammuz was because what happened in the Second Temple, because in the First Temple they also broke the walls, but in a slightly different date. But also in Tammuz. Fast of the 5th month is the 9th of Av. Fast of the 7th is Tzom Gedalia. The fast of the 10th, Asara B'Tevet. All these days, which they were already fasting in the Babylonian exile, Zechariah says to them, will become occasions for joy and gladness. Happy festivals for the house of Judah. And you must love honesty and integrity. V'ha'emet v'hashalom ehavu. Emet is actually truth, and it's honesty and integrity. Yes. So that means they were fasting on Tisha B'Av and all the four fast days of Jerusalem already with the destruction of the first temple. What is Zechariah telling them? When we'll build the second temple, you don't have to fast anymore. Because Jerusalem will be built, the temple will be built. These fasts are temporary designations. They're temporary enactments. They're not forever. Now, there's an interesting discussion in the Talmud about this verse, because the Talmud wants to know, what does that mean? It's clear as, it's clear as the blue sky that according to the Zechariah, the four fast days are temporary. And he says so. When they build the second temple, that's the end of them. So why are we fasting them today? Obviously, they were enacted again after the destruction of the second temple. Because most probably during the whole course of the second temple, they were not enacted. Nobody fasts. Why fast for Jerusalem when you have Jerusalem? So they must have been reenacted when Jerusalem was destroyed. And that's why they picked the 17th of Tammuz and not the day which is mentioned earlier in Tammuz in the book of Kings. But then the question is, what about our day? Does that mean they're not supposed to be enacted? This is a discussion in the Talmud, and it's also brought down in the Shulchan Aruch, and even before the Shulchan Aruch in the book of the Tur, which is sort of like the the work that predated the Shulchan Aruch, written by Yaakov Turim, 14th century Spain. And Yaakov Turim, in his discussion there, together with Yosef Karo of the Shulchan Aruch, who writes a commentary, and the Ramah, who also writes a commentary on the Tur, they bring two possibilities. Possibility number one is that in times when there is peace, but the Jews are still in Galut, if you want, you can stop the 3 fast days except for Tisha B'Av. Because if there's peace, then we don't have to do all the fast days. Tisha B'Av is enough. But that's only if the people decide. Because of that, the people decided not to do that. So all of our exile, we've had the 4 fast days. However, the question is, when is it obligatory to stop the fast days? This is an argument between Joseph Caro in his commentary on the book of the Torah and Yoel Sirkis, who wrote a commentary called Beit Chadash, the New House. Yoel Sirkis, who lived in Krakow. So according to Yoel Sirkis, you only get rid of the fast days when the temple is rebuilt. According to Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, you can get rid of the 3 fast days even when the Jews came back and built Jerusalem, even before the temple. That means, according to Yosef Karo, today we actually don't have to keep the fast days. We only have to keep Tisha B'Av. The Talmud already says that even according to the Zechariah, who said the fast days can be abolished during the Second Temple, Tisha B'Av won't be abolished because all of the things that happen on Tisha B'Av, in addition to the destruction of the temple. Many things happen in Jewish history, so Tisha B'Av was not the greatest day for us. The expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492 happened in August 1492 on Tisha B'Av. A lot of things in our history. There's a list, by the way, somebody put together things that happened on Tisha B'Av in Jewish history. Both temples were destroyed on Tisha B'Av. And an El Al plane flying over Bulgaria in 1956 was shot down on Tisha B'Av. Nobody knew why at the time. They thought it was an accident. Some guy wrote a book about it about 10 years ago. Turns out that the Russians told the Bulgarians to shoot down the plane because there was one guy there who was a spy who they didn't like. So they were willing to get rid of the whole plane to get that one guy. So everything at the beginning, they said it was a mistake. Turns out it wasn't a mistake. It was on purpose. But anyhow, this Tisha B'Av therefore became a difficult day. And it's almost like it's the Talmud says, when Tisha B'Av comes in, don't be too joyous. If you have a court case, push it off. It's basically the first 15 days of Av are difficult days for us. On the 15th day, we have a holiday called Tu B'Av. It's not a holiday in the sense from the Torah. It's a rabbinic holiday. If we have time, I'll talk about it. But Tu B'Av became a time of shidduchim, of young people matchmaking each other. The Talmud says they used to do matchmaking on the 15th day of Av and on Yom Kippur in the Jewish community. I have a friend who met his wife on Yom Kippur because on Yom Kippur, they have the Yizkor service, and all the young people who still have 2 parents, they go outside the synagogue not to be there during the Yizkor service, so they have time to talk to each other. That's how he met his wife in a synagogue somewhere in Baltimore. But yeah, so you have things like that too. But the interesting thing is, so according to the Talmud actually reaffirms this. It says, aside from Tisha B'Av, which we will always keep because of the other days, other things that happen, the other 3 fast days are temporary. Whenever the rabbis of that period decide that the time has come, then the time will have come. So one day the rabbis here in the land of Israel have to make that decision. But there's another interesting thing about Tisha B'Av. It is a time of mourning. It is a time which has been a hard time for the Jews in the exile. But the rabbis also say, there's one place, as the Midrash says, that on Tisha B'Av, the Messiah was born, which means Tisha B'Av is a day of destruction, but it's also a day which has hidden within it hope for the rebirth of the Jewish people. That's what it means the Messiah was born. And I was talking to a friend of mine on Friday, and we were talking about the situation. It's a woman, so she says to me, well, you never know because I was born on Tisha B'Av, she says to me. So I said, well, if you're descended from the house of David, I'm willing that it be a woman. What do I care? As long as the Mashiach comes and bring peace to Israel. And besides, Devorah was a judge of Israel, so you just had to have the people to stand behind her, then it was allowed. Hasmoneans had the people behind them. Then she says to me, well, just in case that doesn't work, you should know I have a twin brother who was born in Tisha B'Av. So you never know. You never know. But another thing in the laws of Tisha B'Av, we wear a white shirt like on Shabbat and festivals. And in addition to this, on Tisha B'Av in the afternoon, we not only do we not sit on the floor, Tisha B'Av, the first half of Tisha B'Av, we don't sit on a chair until the middle of the day. We don't say hello to people. But on the second half we do. And also on Tisha B'Av, we don't say tachanun, the penitential prayer. We don't say the vidui, the penitential prayer, the tachanun, because the Talmud says it's referred to as a holiday. Because it says in Eicha, in Lamentations, Kara alai moed lishbor bakurai, which literally means God designated a day to break my young men, which means my soldiers. But because the word for day there is moed, which in Hebrew means a holiday, so in halakha we say that Tisha B'Av is going to turn into a holiday, because that's what Zechariah says. Whether we fast on Tisha B'Av or not, Zechariah says that Tisha B'Av, together with the other 3 days, is going to turn into a holiday, a time of happiness and joy. And this will happen with the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. So this is our belief. So yes, it's true. Temporarily, the 9 days are a bad time for the Jews. Temporarily, the 9th of Av is bad. But this will be switched over. There will be a metamorphosis. And then the 9th of Av will be an extension of Tu B'Av and be a time of joy. That's our belief. Okay, let's get back to this. Closing Zechariah. Now let's go back to the Shulchan Aruch. Can I hit the wrong one? Okay, we do not wed women and we do not make engagement meals in 3 weeks. Here he says, on Tisha B'Av. Okay, by the way, excuse me, this is not the Ramah, this is Rav Yosef Karo. Okay, so Rav Yosef Karo says, let me see this again. We do not wed women or make engagement meals. Oh, during the 9 days, I think he meant. But engaging without a meal is allowed. Even on Tisha B'Av itself, it is permitted to engage a man to engage a woman in order that somebody else not steal her away from him. By the way, that's in the Talmud. Shema yaktimenu acher. Timing is everything in life. So if you found your partner, even if it's Tisha B'Av, don't wait, because everything in life is timing. The Ramah says our custom is to be strict. We don't do weddings from the 17th day of Tammuz until Tisha B'Av. This is the Ashkenazi custom to have weddings during the whole 3 weeks, from the 17th day of Tammuz until Tisha B'Av. Sfaradim, I think it's only during the 9 days. I think that's what he said above. Now, again, the week that Tisha B'Av falls in, again, he's talking according to Sfaradim. According to Ashkenazim, it's the whole 9 days. Whatever he's saying now for Ashkenazim applies to the whole 9 days. The week that Tisha B'Av falls in, it is forbidden to take a haircut. It is forbidden to launder your clothing. But if he doesn't have enough to wear, to place it until after Tisha B'Av, and he has only one garment, wait a moment. Oh, even if he doesn't have enough to wear, even if he has only one garment. And similarly, previously laundered garments to wear or make bed even hand, it's forbidden. Washing is permitted by kibbutz. Okay, what does that mean? The custom is like this. We don't do laundry during Tisha B'Av unless you have like small children who go through the laundry very quickly. And so it becomes very difficult. You're allowed to launder undergarments, underpants, undershirts, things like that, which you can go through quite quickly. But in general, clothing is supposed to be prepared before the 9 days. Another thing that we do in the 9 days is we try, again, trying to explain this one. We try to have clothes that we wore the day before the 9 days. So usually what people do, especially Ashkenazim, we just put on the shirt for a moment, take it off, put on another shirt, take it off, put on the pair of pants, take it off, whatever. If you did not do this, then according to one of my rabbis, Rabbi Yisraeli, who is one of the Rosh Yeshiva and Merkaz Rav, he said it's enough. Then you can go while wearing your socks, you just trample on it. So it takes away the stiffness of the ironing. You just walk on it a little bit, and that's it. So if it's a shirt, if it's a pair of pants, just remind yourself that it's not supposed to have that crispy feeling during the 9 days. So anything laundered, again, if you didn't put it on previously, then just do something like that. That's all. Let's see what else. Or washing the clothes is called gehutz there. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what he's reading from. Here he says, we're in everything that Shulchan Aruch said, we do from Rosh Chodesh during the 9 days. Right. Here he says we don't wear a white garment on Tisha B'Av, but actually today we do. That is our custom. Okay. So what are the things that you don't do during the 9 days? So the 3 weeks, you don't get married. During the 9 days, we don't launder clothes, but if clothes were already laundered, it's better to have worn them for a moment before. If you didn't, I told you, you can just do something to get the crispiness out of it. That's according to Rabbi Yisraeli. And you can launder clothes that get soiled very quickly, like baby clothes and children's stuff. Of course, nowadays people just throw out the diapers, but I'm just saying that if it's something you literally ran out of, so then there's no, you have no choice. On Shabbat, of course, you can always wear new garments on Shabbat. It's not a problem. And now, what about washing? I'm surprised you didn't say anything about it. Maybe it's further. Okay. Hold it.
Washing like you take a shower or
Yeah.
washing?
Well, let me get to that. I'll get to that in a moment. Number 9, there are those who are accustomed not to eat meat or to drink wine this week, but you can use wine vinegar. And there are those that add from Rosh Chodesh Av, which is the Ashkenazi custom. One moment. Just happened. I can't get it to move. From Shiva Sabbat, and there are those even don't eat meat from Shiva Sabbat Tammuz, but I don't know anybody who has that custom. What does that mean? During the 9 days, the Ashkenazi custom, and among the Sfaradim, I think it's during the week of, we don't eat meat or chicken, and we don't drink wine. The reason we don't eat meat and chicken or don't drink wine is because it was used in the temple. Wine libations, pouring wine was used in the sacrificial service of the temple. Meat was given as offerings. Birds were given as offerings. So birds and meat were also not eaten during the 9 days. You can eat fish. You can drink other alcoholic beverages, beer, whiskey, which is not wine. Again, it's not because of the alcohol. It's because the wine was used in libations in the temple. Okay, so it's specific to wine, specific to meat, including chicken. This is our custom on Tisha B'Av. If you are at a siyum, which means somebody completed a tractate of the Talmud or one of the orders of the Mishnah, it's allowed to have a festive meal, which is called a mitzvah meal, Sudat mitzvah, and then people can have meat. There are actually a lot of hotels, there used to be kosher hotels in the United States and Canada, where people would pay people to finish a tractate so that the guests could have meat during the 9 days. I was never crazy about that, but some people used to do that. But anyhow, I've never had a problem not having meat for 9 days. On Shabbat, you can have meat. On Shabbat, you can have wine. None of this applies to Shabbat. Beseder? Next thing. Where is it here?
We cannot say the bracha de Sheheyanu too. I don't know if you say.
The bracha of the Sheheyanu is a question, because it doesn't actually say that anywhere. Those who do not permit the bracha of the Sheheyanu, you can always do it on Shabbat. Meaning, if you want to wear a new garment, wear it on Shabbat. However, they say that the Shabbat Chazon not to do that, which is the Shabbat right before Tisha B'Av. He even says, it's permitted to drink other types of alcoholic beverages, like mead, which is made out of honey. Okay, so it's not about alcohol, it's about wine in particular. You can trim the part of your beard that allows you to eat. If it's okay. Let me see what else. Okay, there are those who don't bathe from the beginning of Av, the 9 days. There are those that withhold during the week of. And the Ramah says, for a mitzvah need, it is allowed. Okay, he's talking about going to the mikveh, etc. And of course, before Shabbat. Yes. So, what is that? In general, bathing was not permitted when it was for enjoyment. And therefore, we don't swim during the 9 days. I have to say that the Talmud says something very unusual in his brother Shulchan Aruch. The Talmud says, permit swimming during the 3 weeks, but it says that it's dangerous, so you have to be careful. Okay, and it's brought in the Shulchan Aruch. You're permitted to swim during the 3 weeks, aside from the 9 days, but it is dangerous, so be careful. Every year in Israel, we get these meduzot during the 3 weeks. You know, the jellyfish, they always attack during the 3 weeks. It's like they're trying to keep people out of the water. It's like weird. Every year, you can check it. It's like, sometimes at the beginning of the 3 weeks, sometimes in the 9 days, but it's usually at the beginning of the 3 weeks. Like every year, they come these jellyfish. Weird stuff. So yeah, that's what it says. They say you have to watch out not to drown during the 3 weeks. Another thing. So yes, bathing for pleasure we don't do. So we don't swim. You can sit on the beach, but you're not allowed to swim during the 9 days. Bathing at home you can do if it's for cleanliness. So even though the official law is not to bathe, Rabbi Yisraeli and others have said that you can do it for cleanliness. Now, living in the climate that we live in here, where it's over 30 degrees during the day, people start to sweat. So it's usually a problem of cleanliness when you're sweating. Also, if a person gets dirty, children get dirty a lot, adults less, but when it comes to sweating, we sweat more than they do. So, so the issue of cleanliness you can do. However, the suggestion is not to have a hot shower, but to have a lukewarm shower, either cold or lukewarm, so that it's not so much enjoyment, it's out of cleanliness. So you use the soap and the water, but you just make it lukewarm so it's not that as enjoyable as normal. That's the way he suggests. Rabbi Yisraeli was the second Rosh Hashiva at Merkaz Harav, together with Rabbi Avraham Shapiro. He also was in charge of the rabbinical program. His first name was, what's his first name again? No, it's hold it. Just
Rabbi, does the mikvah count as part of bathing?
the mikvah, of course, is allowed. It's for a mitzvah. Yeah. So for a woman who goes to the mikvah once a month, of course, it's allowed. For a man who does it just out of a minhag, it can be done Erev Shabbat. I mean, if a person has a minhag to go Erev Shabbat, because you can also take a shower Erev Shabbat with hot water. Because again, it's things for Shabbat, for a mitzvah is not, it's considered a mitzvah to wash yourself before Shabbat. So if you want to also go to the mikveh at the same time, for a man, that's also Okay. That's basically it. That's it. So it's washing clothes unless you literally ran out of them. It's not eating meat and wine during the 9 days for Ashkenazim and the week of for Sfaradim, not cutting your hair. Many people don't shave at all during the 3 weeks. Other people shave Erev Shabbat. When I talk about shaving, but not cutting the hair, everybody agrees during the 3 weeks not to. But I'm talking about the beard. Some people shave the beard on Erev Shabbat, others don't. Even some people who shave the whole time during the 3 weeks, arguing that, well, it was Rabbi Soloveitchik allowed it because of if they needed it for work. Also during the time. Oh, now I want to talk about the difference between the 3 weeks and which was the original question, and the Omer, right? That was the original question. I think Alexandra, you asked. The 3 weeks are considered more, I don't know how to put it, more severe than the Omer, because the 3 weeks is over the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. You could argue the Omer also is, if you understand that the students of Rabbi Akiva died in one of the battles of Bar Kokhba, most probably, over Jerusalem. But the point is that the 3 weeks was always considered more severe. In fact, the Talmud says, not the Talmud, the Shulchan Aruch says about the Sfirat HaOmer, nohagim bo ktsat avelut. You do just a little bit of mourning during that time. And then the question is, how do you describe a little bit of mourning? Most of the descriptions of mourning for the Sfirat HaOmer were added to later on by the Achronim, by the post Shulchan Aruch rabbis. In the Shulchan Aruch, they talk about taking a haircut, right? And not doing weddings, except during Leg BaOmer. So so those were the things that are discussed, but the other things are not even discussed. A lot of people don't listen to music during the Omer, but it's not mentioned in the Code of Jewish Law. Some people don't do Shechianu during the Omer. Again, it's not in the Code of Jewish Law. So these are like minhagim that developed later. But what we just read now, most of the things are mentioned in the Talmud. Not to drink wine, not to eat meat, and not to wash your clothes, not to cut your hair. Most of these are already mentioned in the Mishnah. But the Mishnah actually says it mostly about the 9 days and the week of. The Ashkenazim extended it, cutting the hair and not getting married for the 3 weeks, and which I think the not getting married out is the Sephardim, I think, also uphold. And we extended the week of to 9 days, which Sephardim don't necessarily do. So it's more severe, the mourning of 9 days than the mourning of the Omer. Here he says, it's good to be careful from saying the Shechianu blessing during the 3 weeks, the fruit of clothing. He says it's good, meaning it's, yeah.
I think it's because the meaning of the Shechianu, like
means it's a new piece of clothing, a new fruit, is expression of joy. So as I said, we do it, we can do it on Shabbat though. You can wear that new clothing on Shabbat, have the new fruit on Shabbat. And then you have one of these weird stuff. It's necessary to be careful on the 17th of Tammuz until the 9th of Av, not to go alone outside between the 4th and the 9th hour of the day. There is a demon called Keter Merori. You shouldn't hit your students on those days. If you're a teacher in a school, they used to hit students, don't hit them on these days, you might make a mistake. Yeah. This is Jewish superstition. But yeah, you look, a lot of things happen in these days. Now in the state of Israel, I really have great hopes that these days will transform themselves. So I know that the Iranians are waiting for these days. They don't know that the Mashiach was also born then on the 9th of Av. Nobody told them that. It says that Haman, when he discovered the lottery, he wanted to destroy the Jewish people. The lottery fell on the 7th day of Adar, and he was very happy because he found out that Moses died on the 7th day of Adar. But what he didn't know that when Moses was also born on the 7th day of Adar. That was his mistake. So yes, Tisha B'Av in the Galut and first and second temple were times of difficult times for the Jewish people, but it can be transformed here in the land of Israel. Questions?
Oh, sorry, what about grapes during 9 days?
Grapes? I mean,
Grapes.
what about grapes?
Are we allowed to eat grapes?
Yes, you can also have grape juice. It's just wine.
Okay.
I don't
Just
think
wine.
grape juice
Okay.
was used in the temple. Again, it's what was used in the temple. It was wine, and it was meat for korbanot, and also birds for the korbanot. Okay. What else did it say
Wait,
we're supposed to do? The 9
actually-
days and
Wait, I have a question about that.
yeah.
I mean, weren't there other sacrifices that weren't meat? Like, weren't there grain sacrifices and other things?
There was the mincha offering, right? That we don't do that. We don't avoid grain, but you're absolutely right. It was made out of semolina. Yes. But because once you do that, people wouldn't be able to beat bread. And that was
Right.
that's too much already. There's a story in the Talmud about certain people who stopped drinking wine completely and stopped eating meat completely after the destruction of the temple. And the rabbi said to them, if you do that, then maybe you shouldn't have grain and you shouldn't have water, because water was also used in the temple. I mean, you have to draw a line at some point. I'm going to run off to Mincha for about 10 minutes. So let's take a break for about 10 minutes. I will, one moment. Where is the recording? Where did it go? I don't see the recording app. Here it is. I'm going to pause it for a moment. Well, by the way, is everybody here? I can't always see everybody. Let me just see. Okay. Officially, and when we do Zoom in the Gior classes, you're supposed to have it open unless you have a reason why you cannot. The idea is to make sure the people are here. During Corona, when I taught students at Bar Ilan, I didn't have to open it, so you never knew if they were there. They weren't there. You'd ask a question, hoping somebody would answer. So it's a bit weird. I'm not saying I never talk to myself, but it's always better when there's somebody listening when there's a class online. Okay, we have 2 times in the year where you have a 3-week period. One of them is from the Torah, and one of them is rabbinic. And they're sort of an antithesis of each other. They're like the opposite. Each one is its opposite. Can anybody guess of what I'm talking about? 2 times in the year where you have a 3-week period, and they're exact opposites of each other.
Well, one is now.
One is now. Yes, that's true. Here, you
You also count in Omer, days of Omer. It's also about like
actually more than 3 weeks. It's actually 33 days. Yeah,
Yeah,
3 weeks would be
it's really-
21 days. But yeah, but that's not a bad guess. But what's also 3 weeks? Or maybe 22 days. I do the same thing when I try to remember something. I look up and to the left. I think it has to do with the brain that their memory must be right there, something like that. Yes. Okay.
So Tisha B'Av. And
Oh, that's not what we said. The 3 weeks are actually 22 days, because if you remember the laws of Tisha B'Av, I had that page somewhere. Hold it if I can find it. Okay. Oh, that's on the computer. I can find it for you, even though it's in Hebrew. One moment, let me see. Yeah. We have a minhag. All the laws of the 3-week extend past the 9th day of Av till the 10th day. Till the 10th day, till the middle of the day. The reason why is because in the book of Kings, it says that the temple was destroyed on the 10th of Av.
Good.
And the Talmud says it was destroyed on the 9th. So the Talmud says, so make up your mind. Was it the 9th or the 10th? Talmud says that the fire started on the 9th, continued into the 10th, and finished on the 10th. So the temple was burned over a period of 2 days. But the fast we do on the 9th, but until the middle of the 10th day, all the things that we did not do during the 9 days, we still refrain from into the 10th day. So we still don't drink wine, we still don't eat meat or chicken, we still don't bathe for pleasure, we still don't take a haircut until the middle of the 10th day. So the 10th day also is an extended period of this 3 weeks. So it's really 3 weeks and half a day, or 3 weeks and a day. Now there is, as I'm saying that, I want to find another page I wanted to show you. It's called Arbat Tzumot, right? Here it is. Amazing. Okay, perfect. It's in Ivrit, if you can deal with this. I don't know if you can deal with it, but you can look for it in the English too. Let me show it to you. You see this page behind you? Here. Okay. What happened here? Why can't I see it? Okay, there it is. Okay. Before I get to what I want to say, I'm going to read for you from the Book of Kings 2:25. On the 9th year of his kingdom, meaning Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king who destroyed the first temple. On the 10th month, when is the 10th month? Which month is the 10th
Tevet.
month? Good.
Tevet.
Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylonia, came with all of his soldiers to Jerusalem. And they built a moat around the city. And he made a siege around the city until the 11th year. The king Tzidkiyahu was the king of Judea. On the 9th of that month, there was a great famine in the city. And then they broke through the walls of the city. So it says the 9th, not the 17th. That's why I wanted to point, excuse me, Asiri, excuse me. No, oh, this is the 10th, no, excuse me, it's Tevet, that's fine. They broke through the city on, moment. Where was it? Where did I just see that? Oh, here it is. Here it only says that on the 9th day, there was a great famine in the city. We, of course, do this on the 10th of the 10th month. That's when we do Sarah B'Tevet. See another Makor in a moment. And then it talks about on the 5th month, the 17th day, 5th month is Av. Excuse me, on the 7th of the 5th month, Nebuchadnezzar came and he destroyed Jerusalem. He also destroyed the house of God. Here he says the 7th, not the 9th. Now let me show you another source, which is taken from Kings 2:25. On the 7th month, Ishmael ben Netanya and 10 people basically assassinated Gedaliah, who was in charge of the Jews. And by the way, it doesn't say when, during the 7th month, but it was on Rosh Hashanah. We commemorate this on the 3rd day of Tishrei, the day after Rosh Hashanah. And then in Jeremiah 52, it says on the 10th month, on the 10th day, that's when Nebuchadnezzar came and made a siege around the city. So you have two places. One in the book of Kings, it says the 9th. One in Jeremiah, it says the 10th. And we actually keep the fast day of Asara B'Tevet on the 10th. In the same source in Jeremiah, it says on the 4th month, which is Tammuz, there was a great famine in the city. But it actually doesn't say when. It says in that month. And then it says in the 5th month, on the 10th of the month, that's when he destroyed the house. So in one place, in the Book of Kings, it says on the 7th. In the book of Jeremiah, it says the 10th. So then we can understand it. It started on the 7th, it finished on the 10th. We commemorate it on the 9th and half of the 10th. Okay, what else do we have here? And then I brought those verses from Zechariah chapter 8, which we saw earlier. Now, let me read to you what the Talmud says about this. One moment. Oh, look, I have it in English. I'm very sorry. Didn't realize. Okay, this is the same thing. You have here the Book of Kings on the 10th day of the 10th month. Nebuchadnezzar moves against. And then on the 9th day of the 4th month, excuse me. Okay. On the 9th day of the 4th month, that's instead of Shiva Asar Tammuz, they have the 9th of Tammuz. That's what I told you, that the Talmud says that the 17th of Tammuz was in the second temple. And then the 7th day of the 5th month, which was the 7th of Av, that's when he moves into the city. But we see that in the book of Jeremiah, it was the 10th day of the 5th month when the house was completely destroyed. So it seems that it went from the 7th to the 10th. I want to show you what the Talmud says. This is what I started off. I didn't realize I had these sources in English. Rabbi Chana Bar Bizna says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon Chasida, what is the meaning of these verses? Thus says the Lords of Hosts, the fast of the 4th month, meaning Tammuz, the fast of the 5th, Av, the fast of the 7th, which is Tzom Gedalia and Tishrei, and the fast of the 10th, Asara B'Tevet, will become times of joy and gladness to the house of Judah. It calls them fast days and also calls them times of joy and gladness. How is that possible? So when there is peace in the world, there's joy and gladness. When there's no peace, there are days of fasting. Sorry. Rav Papa said, when there is peace in the world and the temple is standing, these days will be joy and gladness. When there is no persecution and troubles for the Jewish people, there's still days of fasting. When there is persecution, but when there's no persecution and no actual peace, because we're not in the land of Israel, the halacha is as follows. If the people wish, they fast. If they wish, they do not fast. I told you this is also brought down halacha, which means already you can see that according to Rav Papa, there has to be both peace in the world and the temple is standing. But later on, the halacha is also that if there is no temple, but there's peace even outside of Israel, you can decide if they want those other 3 fast days. As I said, today we decided yes, meaning today, since the beginning of the last 2,000 years. The Gemara asks, if so, and the 9th of Av should also be like the other fast days, sometimes observed, sometimes not. But Papa said the 9th of Av is different, since the calamities that occurred on that day were multiplied. As it says on the 9th of Av, the temple was destroyed, the first and the second. City of Beitar was captured. Jerusalem was plowed over by the enemies on that day during Bar Kokhba revolt, etc., etc. I wanted to point that out. Another thing I want to point out, what I said before. We have 2 3-week periods. We have a period of sadness, which is the 3 weeks, which starts from the 17th of Tammuz and finishes off with the 9th of Av. And it's completely over on the 15th of Av, which is a day of happiness. We have another 3 weeks, which are probably the most spiritual days of the year. And that's from Rosh Hashanah to Shmini Atzeret. Of course, in the past year, Rosh Shmini Atzeret was not such a happy day. But normally the 3 weeks, those 3 weeks, which are 22 days, from Rosh Hashanah to Shmini Atzeret, represent a time of happiness. Sukkot is called Zman Simchatenu, the festival of our happiness. And we're building ourselves up. Rosh Hashanah is a time of introspection. Actually, Rosh Hashanah is a time where we accept the yoke of heaven over ourselves. And we ask God to be the king of the world, because unfortunately human beings are not always doing such a good job. And during those first 10 days of penitence, we're preparing ourselves for Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur is a time of introspection. After Yom Kippur, you build up towards Sukkot, because Sukkot is days of happiness. Because the whole point of introspection and mending your ways is to bring you to a life of happiness, not of sadness, not of moving away. The goal of the 3 weeks at the beginning of the year are to create a house, like a sukkah, where everybody is there and everybody together is on the same page. And a house where you've already passed Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and you're now trying to build a life in which spirituality is part of the day-to-day. So you're living in a house where you can see the stars, which means you're living an earthly life with every now and then your mind's towards the heavens. And that's the goal of the first 3 weeks. The second 3 weeks, which is the ones we're in now, is a time where you're going to more and more sadness all the time. And at the end is the worst day, which is Tisha B'Av on the 10th. So you're actually going the opposite direction. It's like a building coming apart. And at the end, the building falls, which is the temple. Whereas in Sukkot, the building is built for the 7 days of Sukkot. And
I lost you now. I lost you. We have now the 3 weeks of mourning, but you said before that there are also 3 weeks. Or did I misunderstood you?
yes, the other 3 weeks are from Rosh Hashanah till Shmini Atzeret, which are also 22 days. And these 3 weeks are also 22 days because it includes the 10th of Av, which is the first half of that day is still mourning.
But now it's the mourning period. Now, this
Yes. It's the mourning period until the 10th of Av. And it
Yeah.
becomes more and more severe. The 3 weeks are less severe. The 9 days are a little bit more severe. Tisha B'Av is the most severe. We don't actually eat or drink or wear leather shoes. I mean, it's much more severe. It's almost like Yom Kippur, just as rabbinic. It's not from the Torah.
Yeah, that's on the 9th of Av. That's on the 30th
Right.
of August.
Right. So it's like a descending in the 3 weeks. But the first 3 weeks in Tishrei was ascending. The 3 weeks in the summer is descending. In
Between the 9th of Av, you have till Rosh Hashanah, you have 7 weeks. Correct?
where do you have 7 weeks?
7 weeks between the 9th of Av and Rosh Hashanah. That's 7 weeks. That's the weeks of
I don't know. I have to count them. You know for sure. I mean, what is the significance of that?
That's the consolidation that you start to console.
Oh, you're talking about Shevan and Achamta. You're talking about the 7 Haftorahs that we read.
Yeah.
We read 7 Haftorahs after that. How many weeks are there from Av to Elul? Good, yeah, it's good. Almost.
1, 2.
What we do is we read seven Haftorot that talk about positive things with messianic hopes and rebuilding, etc. Shevan and Achamta. But I'm
Yeah.
talking about the 3 weeks. Shevan and Achamta is an idea. It's not exactly something where I don't know, it's not part of the time period, it's just the haftorahs that we read. Because after we have 3 weeks like that, we need 7 weeks to talk about positive things. But, and as I said, in the calendar, we have 3 weeks. Now, in Kabbalistic literature, when you build, it's called building the Aleph Beit in the right direction, from Aleph to Tav. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, that's called building. Destroying is the opposite way. Taf, Shin, Reish, Kuf, Tzadi, that's called destroying, taking the building blocks down. We have actually a sign of this in the Sidur. In the Sidur, in Musaf of Shabbat, when we bring the Sabbath offering, we have the Aleph Beit backwards. And we say, where is it? We say, Tikanta Shabbat Ratzita Korbanoteh. So it's Taf, Shin, Reish, Kuv, Tzadi, Pei, it's the whole Aleph Beit backwards. When we talk about the Musaf davening for Shabbat, because an offering, you have to take a life in order to give an offering. So it involves a certain amount of destruction, and therefore it's the Aleph Beit backwards. It's a Kabbalistic idea. But I'm saying that if Rosh Hashanah until Sukkot is building, which is like the Aleph Beit going forwards, so what's happening now during the 3 weeks is the Aleph Beit going backwards. And at the end, the building is destroyed, which is the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. Not only that, but even the structure of the first 22 days of the month of Tishrei are exactly the same. You have 10 days of penitence, and then you have another 12 days, which are the days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, and including Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret, it's another 12 days. So it's 10 and 12. If you look at the 3 weeks, it ends with 10 days, meaning the 9 days of Av, including the 10th day, that's 10 days. And before that, there are 12 days that start from Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. So it goes 12-10. In other words, the 3 weeks at the beginning of the year go 10-12. The 3 weeks of the summer go 12-10. The exact opposite. There's actually even more to say about this because in my opinion, the 10 exactly represents the 10 commandments. But in order to prove it to you, I'd have to write it down because I think it's hard for you to image what I'm actually saying. So I'd have to write it down for you.
So the first one, the 3 weeks, is Tisha B'Av, and the other one is then between Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah.
It's between Rosh Hashanah and Shmini Atzeret. 22 days. Shiva Asar B'Tammuz to the 10th of Av is also 22 days. This is mostly my idea, unfortunately.
Okay, I see it, yeah.
But it seems to be a correct one. So I wanted to point that out. And of course, the goal is, in the end, for the second 3 weeks to be abolished. It was a temporary measure because of the imperfections of the world. We believe that the imperfections within ourselves as a people are just a reflection of the imperfections of the world. And the more we work on ourselves, the more there's a chance that the rest of the world will be okay too.
So the first one is the mourning for the 2 temples, and the second one between Rosh Hashanah and Shemini Atzeret is, what is that about then?
It's building up the Jewish people, and the sukkah represents the temple.
Okay.
Say on the sukkah is called Sukkot David Hanofelet in the book of Amos, chapter 9. The sukkah, the falling sukkah of David, is a reference to the temple. So the goal is building up the sukkah, whereas during the 3 weeks, the destruction was of the temple. So we have like 2-3 weeks which mimic each other in the calendar. That's what I wanted to point out here.
Yeah, but it has also a spiritual meaning. Yeah, that's the whole issue. It's not just 3 weeks, but the reason why.
I'm not sure I understood the question.
No, it's not just only 3 weeks. It's just it has a spiritual importance. One is the mourning, and the one is the building up.
Yes, but it's mourning. What the first one built, the second one is mourning. Sukkot was building the temple. And we go to the temple during the Sukkot for 7 days. And on Shmini Atzeret,
Yeah, this story. Yeah,
yeah, and the point of, and what happened 3 weeks was the destruction of the temple at the end.
yeah. Okay, I got it.
Right. So I wanted to point that out too. Aside from the 9 days, what else was I told I would talk about? Do you remember? Did it say aside from the 9 days?
No.
Maybe Tisha B'Av itself?
Okay. We have 6 fast days in the Jewish year. One of them is from the Torah. What is the one from the Torah?
Yom Kippur.
Yes. 4 of them relate to Jerusalem, which we mentioned. The 10th of
10th
Tevet,
of Tevet, 17th of Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, Tzom Gedalia.
on a roll, right? So the 10th of Tevet is the siege around Jerusalem. The 17th of Tammuz is when the walls were broken. That's the beginning of the 3 weeks. The 9th of Av is the destruction of the temple. And Tzom Gedalia on the 3rd of Tishrei. Gedalia was the head of the remnant of the Jews who remained in Judea, were allowed by the Babylonians to live there. People who were not aristocracy, who were not very wealthy and powerful, they were allowed to stay. And the leader was the appointed leader was this Gedalia ben Achikam. There was a fellow, his name was Ishmael ben Netanya, and he assassinated Gedalia because he wanted to be the leader. After that happened, most of the Jews went down to Egypt, but some of them remained in the land of Israel. And even Jeremiah the prophet went down to Egypt with the majority of the Jews who went at that time. So it's another tragedy that even after the destruction of the temple, we couldn't pull ourselves together to keep the community together after the destruction of the second temple. And these are the 4 fast days, which represent are all for Jerusalem. And these are the fast days that can be reinstated as happy days, according to the book of Zechariah. We have one additional rabbinic fast day, which is
The Fast of Esther.
Fast of Esther. Now, the funny thing of the Fast of Esther, it's not mentioned in the Talmud.
Yeah,
It is a later fast, which is very unusual. It's very unusual to have a fast day which becomes universal and is not mentioned in the Talmud. So in a sense, it has a lesser meaning than the others, but if it reminds us of the fact that Esther told the Jewish people to fast for 3 days before she went to visit the king. And so we have this idea of the fast of Esther right before Purim. By the way, it seems to me that the juxtapositioning of the fast of Esther right before Purim is where Jews got the idea of doing Yom HaZikaron right before Yom HaAtzmaut. You know that right before Israel Independence Day, you have a Soldiers' Memorial Day, literally the day before. And even though it's very significant, I can tell you that the families that lost a soldier and commemorate on the day of Soldiers' Memorial Day, they cannot have a joyous Yom HaAtzmaut the next day. It doesn't work. So was the idea a good idea? In theory, yes. In theory, yes, because it reminds us we have to pay respect for those who, because of them, we have the country. Does it work for the families of those people? Less so. Less so. But for every downside, there's an upside. But I think they took the idea from this idea, the fast of Esther, right before Yom Kippur, because we actually have that in the calendar already. So those are the 6 fast days. The difference between, now Yom Kippur is a 25-hour fast day. like Shabbat is 25 hours, so is Yom Kippur. It starts with the sundown. It finishes when the stars come out the following day, just like Shabbat. In that sense, Tisha B'Av is exactly like Yom Kippur. It starts with the sun going down and finishes when the stars come out. It's also like Yom Kippur because there are 5 restrictions on Tisha B'Av, just like Yom Kippur. Does anybody know the 5 restrictions? Not
No
everybody say
food, no water, no work.
Okay, food and water is together. No eating and drinking.
No
Eating
marital
and drinking.
relations.
No what?
Commercial relations.
Marital
Marital
relations.
relations. What else?
Work.
No, work is not one of the 5. We're talking about the Inuim,
Okay.
the afflictions.
Don't
Mhm.
take showers for pleasure.
I'm sorry? In here.
The
No
showers
work.
for pleasure, the
No using electricity or fire.
No, that's on Shabbat. We're talking about
Leather shoes, right?
leather shoes. I'm talking
No
about
anointing.
So eating,
No,
drinking, yeah, anointing. Yeah.
No,
leather
no
shoes.
anointing.
You're not allowed to anoint yourself or use things which are like oils on you,
Yeah, Bianca said no washing and bathing.
and no bathing. So these 5 things which are not allowed in Yom Kippur are also not allowed in Tisha B'Av. It's true that Yom Kippur is like Shabbat. We don't do any. It's a Yom Tov, but it's a Yom Tov which is like a Shabbat. So we don't even take fire to it. We don't even light fire from an existing fire on Yom Kippur. It's exactly like Shabbat. Tisha B'Av is not. But Tisha B'Av, all the things are allowed, but the 5 afflictions are parallel to Yom Kippur. They're taken from Yom Kippur, basically.
Could you remember those 5? No food and drinking, no marital relations, no
No
leather
food and
shoes.
drinking.
I'll send it. I'll send it in the chat.
Okay, no leather shoes, no anointing yourself, which was done in antiquity. Yes, and the last one we said was washing and bathing. Yeah, even when we wash our hands, we do it halfway. Yes, so the same thing really is done on Tisha B'Av. The difference is Tisha B'Av is rabbinic, and Yom Kippur is from the Torah, which means since Yom Kippur is from the Torah, if a person's not feeling well, they still have to fast in Yom Kippur. However, if you're really not feeling well, you can discuss it with the doctor. But if the doctor says you're not feeling well, but it's not life-threatening, you do fast in Yom Kippur. On Tisha B'Av, like any other rabbinic fast day, if you're not feeling well objectively, which means you have a fever, let's say, you don't fast. On rabbinic fast days, when, as I said, you don't feel well because you have a fever, you don't feel well because you feel like I'm totally like I lost all my energy, you don't fast. On rabbinic holidays, because on rabbinic holidays we don't take a chance with health issues at all. But when it comes to Yom Kippur, you do. Of course, you have to talk to a doctor. The doctor says you can't fast in Yom Kippur, you don't fast in Yom Kippur. I knew 2 people who the doctor told them not to fast in Yom Kippur, and they did. It's not a smart thing to do. Yeah. One of them I had to take to the hospital, and they were okay after that. I'm just saying, it's not always the smartest thing to do. I understand, your whole life, you never fast in Yom Kippur. All of a sudden, the doctor, who's 30 years younger than me, says that I have to fast in Yom Kippur. I understand people like that. But, you have to be careful about those things. So the other fast days, like Shiva Sarba Tammuz, like Sarba Tevet, Tzom Gedalia, these are day fasts. Now, a Jewish day fast is different than a Muslim day fast. The Ramadan day fasts go from sunrise to sunset. The Jewish day fasts go from what's called the morning star, or we call it Amud HaShachar, which literally means when you can see, if you are standing in a valley like the prairies in Canada or Utah, the Utah Salt Straits, and you could see all the way to the horizon, you would see the first inklings of light on the horizon. So that's called Amud HaShachar. We can see the first inkling of light on the horizon when you're a complete, total straight plane, which is usually about an hour and 10 minutes before sunrise. that's what you see when you look on, when it says, when can you start, when can you not eat on a fast day? It's quite before sunrise. The fast day is over, though, earlier than Shabbat is over. Like now, Shabbat was over at 8:15. Tisha B'Av, I'm not sure, but Shiva Asar B'Tammuz was over 10 minutes before Shabbat came out. Why is that? Because on Shabbat, it comes out when you can see medium-sized stars. Whereas on a regular fast day, a rabbinic fast day, it's out when you can see large stars. You have 3 times when the day is out. You have large stars, medium stars, and little stars. Each one is about 10 minutes further into the night. Large stars, which are probably planets, like Jupiter, Venus, and Mars, you can see already just after the sun sets, about 10 to 15 minutes, about 15 minutes after the sun sets. You will see them already. A lot of people, they will say Mariv exactly from that point when the large stars come out. Then you have when the medium-sized stars come out, which are actually stars, that's when Shabbat comes out, which is about 25 minutes after sundown. 25 or 35, I think it's 25. I have to remember though, to look into that. And so on a rabbinic fast day, you go by the large stars. On fast day from the Torah, like Shabbat, it's the medium-sized stars. And I think Tisha B'Av, we do the same, the medium-sized stars. I have to look into that, but that's what I seem to recall. Okay, let's say lot. Oh, so I want to just go over a little bit. One of the stuff that we did from last week. Just want to summarize a few things. Number one was the question of kosher wine. What is kosher wine? Not everybody at one time, please.
It has to be boiled, right?
No,
It
no.
has to be made by a Jew.
It has to be
Made by a Jew.
has to be made by a Jew. That's it. Obviously, the ingredients have to be kosher, but it has to be made by a Jew. And and even though it's an extension of what we call wine, which was used for idol worship, it's not. The reason that we don't have the non-Jewish wine is not because of idol worship. There are a lot of non-Jews who don't worship idols. But the rabbis use it as to create a social distinction. But it's an extension. Because it's an extension, and because the issue is not the content of the wine, it's harder to find a leniency among it. And the only leniency is that once you have kosher wine, as was mentioned before, if it is boiled, which means pasteurized, then a non-Jew can pour it for you. That's the only leniency in that issue. But what about pat nochri, bread of a non-Jew? What was the issue there? What was the issue of bread of a non-Jew?
So if there is a Jewish baker that you can go to, you
Yeah.
should go to them, unless their bread is of a worse quality, then you're allowed to
Yeah,
go
but what
to
was the issue? Like, what are we?
Patna.
Why is there a decree against Jewish bread in the
They're
first
worried.
place?
They're worried that there'd
What?
be animal fats in the bread
Right,
or
so
dairy.
there'll be some ingredients which are not kosher, and the most common one is animal fat used instead of oil. That's quite common. Okay, I wanted to show you something. I don't see it here at the moment. There's a very I got a clip. I think it was on Facebook, and it was a really good one. I'm actually sorry that I didn't. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but
It's kind of
I
posting.
remember you said, Raf, also that about the bread, if the baker it's watched under some Jewish eye, then we can trust that bread and
That's right.
use it.
In other words, if a Jew already checked out the ingredients, and the ingredients were fine, and the
Yeah.
Jew just threw in the first bread or lit the fire, it's really enough to call it already Jewish bread. Like he made the first one, something like that. So that's already Pat Yisrael, even though the Jew didn't actually make every bread. That's an important thing to point out. Another thing I said is in places where they don't have Jewish bread or bakers, a person actually checks out the ingredients of a place, but he doesn't have the ability to throw in the first fire. It's called palter, which means it's made by a place where they will not use another an unkosher ingredient. So since you checked it out and it's a large bakery where they're not going to change the ingredients, it can be used if there's no other option. It's called pat palter. Those were the ones for, okay, I didn't see the thing I was looking for, too bad. Those were the ones, the three options. Now, aside from that, we talked about what we call the milk of non-Jews. And what was the problem with the milk of non-Jews?
Maybe can be mixed with another milk that it's not a kosher animal.
Exactly. The question of whether the milk might have included within it some mixture of either pig's milk or more commonly camel milk. And it's not actually that common in both cases, but I guess there is the possibility. And because of that, a Jew had to be there while the milking was done. By the way, if a Jew was there while the milking was done, but he didn't milk the cow, it's still called Jewish milk. And that's what was done in antiquity. And it's also, today, as I said, as we read, during the time in the 1950s, after the Second World War, Rabbi Moses Feinstein said that because in countries like the United States, there are laws that milk in a bottle or in a carton, if it says milk without specifying it has to be from a cow, and in these countries, they actually check to make sure that it's cow's milk at least a few times a year. Therefore, it's just like Jewish milk because it's already solved the problem. So most Jews have gone, actually hold that way, but many like to be more strict and like to have the dairies where a Jew is there, at least watching the beginning of the milking process. And the last one was, I'm not sure if we read the last one. The last one was, oh yes, we also mentioned it, a stew that was cooked by a non-Jew. And again, it's a question of the ingredients. And we're talking about a stew, which is like, could be a main course, not a side dish. And again, if the Jew even lit the fire, so was partially present for when the cooking process happened, so they can find out what the ingredients were. Or if the Jews just walked in and out of the kitchen every now and then, because let's say you have a non-Jewish worker in the kitchen, so then again, it's not a problem. So those were the 4 rabbinic decrees pertaining to a food. Seder.
I have a question about the milk again. Something about what's about the pasteurization? It's obligation, right?
Pasteurizing milk is a health obligation.
Yeah. Okay. It's health obligation.
Yes, because
Okay.
it's dangerous. There are diseases you can contract by milk which is not pasteurized.
But this is like a halakli obligation.
Anything which is done for health purposes, halakha would agree with.
Okay. No, because for example, in some countries they love drink fresh milk. Like
There are people who drink
Yeah,
fresh.
but it's dangerous.
They're dangerous to drinking fresh milk. So
I don't know, depend where. In Poland, I remember there is milk, not pasteurized milk, under it's very, very well controlled there, and yeah, the people drink milk like that.
Look, you can always take a chance in life. Well, in Israel, they used to have non-homogenized milk, but they never had non-pasteurized. Since the time of Louis Pasteur, milk has been pasteurized. Before that, it wasn't. You're right. But people got sick. So, you know, there are diseases that animals have that doesn't affect them as much as it does us. A cat can contain worms and live their whole lives with worms in their belly. Doesn't seem to bother them. But for us human beings, it bothers us. So, yeah. Any other questions about the 3 weeks and okay, so I'll end off with the Dvar Torah. The Dvar Torah is about this week's Parsha. We read Matot and Mas'eh. Matot and Mas'eh. The last two Parshiot of the book of Bamidbar. And when you look at the beginning, and we read two Parshiot, Matot and Mas'eh together. They will double up in order to fit into the calendar. There's certain Parshiot which you can choose to double up within the year. Well, it's actually chosen for you, but I'm just saying this is always the same Parshiot. The beginning of Matot talks about a neder. If a person takes an oath. So, and when you take an oath, let's say a person wants to stop smoking. They say, I'm taking an oath, I'm never going to smoke again. Why do they do that? Because they want to help themselves stop smoking. A person says, I'm not going to touch alcohol. It's ruined my life. I take an oath, I'm not going to touch alcohol. Or they say, whatever. But then let's say they can't do it. They realize they made a mistake. So there's a discussion, how can they get out of it? If it was a woman, her husband can get her out of it. A daughter, the father can get her out of it. There's things like that. If not, there's also a Beit Din, which is not mentioned in this week's Parsha. But it also says the importance of keeping your word. So the Parsha starts off with the idea of the oath. In what cases you can break the oath, but in general, not to break the oath, to watch what you say and to respect your word. The end of the Parsha of Matot tells the story of the tribes of Reuven, Shimon, and half of the tribe of Manasseh. And they come to Moses after the Jews defeated Sichon, the king of the Amorites, and Og, the king of the Bashan, which was an area in Transjordan, meaning on the east part of the Jordan River. And Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh said to Moses, we have a lot of cattle. We would like this land to be our inheritance in the land of Israel. Moses heard that, he got really angry. He said, what are you doing? Is this a replay of the 12 spies? Who 10 of them said how bad the land of Israel and tried to get the rest of the people afraid so they wouldn't go into the land? Is that what you're playing on me? I'm paraphrasing. And Reuven and Shimon, half of Manasseh, say, no, that's not at all what we're saying. We just want this land. Tell us what we have to do. Because Moses was afraid that they didn't want to join their brethren in battle. And if they're not going to join their brethren in battle, then people feel like, hey, we're fighting alone. These guys are not joining us. And Reuben and Gad and Chatzi Manasseh, they say to Moses, we swear that we will join our brethren in battle. And when we finish the battle in the land of Israel, we will come back to the area here of Transjordan, of the area of the Gilad, and this will be our inheritance, and not 1 minute before. Moses says, okay, if you're willing to take an oath that that's what you will do, then you will be pardoned. But if you're not willing to take that oath, but if you take that oath and you break it, it's going to be a grave sin. And they take the oath, and then they're allotted that land. Again, the Parsha ends with taking an oath. It starts with taking an oath, and it ends with taking an oath. What is that about? The oath that they take here is that they're going to be with their brethren and fight for the land of Israel. Now, it's interesting. Moses compares that to the 12 spies. What's the comparison? The spies said, we can't go into the land. It's a land that eats up the people. There are giants there. It's not worth it. And Moses seems to imply that they were just afraid to go to the land. Moses in the book of Devarim, Deuteronomy, when he recaps the story of the 12 spies, he says, in this issue, b'davar hazeh, einchem ma'aminim b'Hashem Elokechem. In this issues, you do not believe in God. Because God told you to go in the land, and he said, when you go to the land, you will take it over, I promise you, and you just don't believe it. He says it's a lack of belief. And therefore, when he sees that the tribes of Reuven, Shimon, and half of Manasseh want to remain the Transjordan, he thought they're afraid to fight for the land. They said, no, we're not afraid to fight for the land. Not at all. We just happen to like this land because it's very green, it's good for our cattle. And why not? We already conquered it, it's going to be part of the land eventually. Moses says, okay, if that's the reason, then that's the reason. In order to conquer the land of Israel, you have to believe that you have the ability to conquer the land. That belief helps you. And when you have that belief, Hashem helps you. When you believe that God is going to help you with the land, God helps you with the land. When you start looking for all different types of reasons why it's not going to work, then it becomes more difficult. When Moses led the people and they ran away from the Egyptians and they were standing at the Red Sea. So the people said, what are we going to do? The sea is in front of us. The Egyptians are behind us. What do we do? So Moshe screamed out to God and said, what do we do? And God said, why are you screaming to me? Just tell the people of Israel to go. Tell them, go forward. So Moses wondered, what does that mean? Go forward. How are they going to go forward? So there was a guy, his name was Nachshon ben Aminadav. He had actually married the sister of Aaron, Elisheva. And this Nachshon said, look, you said God said go forward, let's go forward. He walked into the sea. And the sea was now up to his waist. The sea didn't part. He kept walking into the sea. It was now up to his neck. Sea didn't part. He kept walking into the sea. It was now just under his nose. And then the sea parted. You have to believe that God is walking with you when you move forward, and then he's there. That's all that he requires in the land of Israel. So when the people fight for the land, and they're willing to risk their lives for it, that's when we can move forward. That's when our enemies start fading away. There's a book by Franz Kafka. I think it's The Story of the Trial. Correct me if I have the wrong story, where there's this fellow who needs to meet with the king, and he's standing next to the palace, and there's a guard there. He says to the guard, can I go through? And the guard doesn't talk. Says, I really need to go through. Guard says nothing. He's sitting. Finally, the sun's going down. He's getting nervous. Can I go through? The guard says nothing. Sun goes down. The guard locks the door. The man is all fed up. He says, why did you lock the door? I wanted to go through. The guard said, the whole day I was waiting for you to go through that door. That's why it was open. Day's over. I closed it. So sometimes Hashem just waits for us to walk through the door. That's what it takes. And when we walk through with faith and in the right way, then things go the right way. So may these days, which were days of difficult times for the Jewish people in the past, as the prophet Zechariah promised, turn into holidays of jubilation. And may the love of truth and peace become materialized again in the land of Israel. And then we'll go forward. There, Tisha B'Av will not just be the day of the destruction of the first and second temple, but the day of the birth of Messiah, which is the building of the third temple, speedily in our days. And may everybody have a safe evenings in front of us. May we get through Tisha B'Av without much difficulty. And if our enemies decide to attack us, so it also says in the book of Zechariah, chapter 2, Daniela Neum Hashem, I will be for her, for Jerusalem, as God says, Chomat Eish Misaviv, I shall be a wall of fire, and my honor shall dwell within it. Okay, dear friends, I wish you Erev Tov, and I will close the recording at this point. I'll send you the link in the